Today, we're going to dig into something pretty incredible. It's the story of a pharmaceutical company that, honestly, most people haven't heard of, but they built a playbook that led to a 13 times profit growth. Yeah, you heard that right. This is the story of Caplin Point Laboratories.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How in the world does a company manage to multiply its profits by 13 times in just 10 years? It's not luck, and it's definitely not magic. It is a masterclass in strategy, and we are going to unpack it piece by piece.
And just to really let that sink in, take a look at this. Back in 2015, their profit was about 41 crore rupees. A decade later, it's projected to be 541 crore. That is the kind of explosive growth that makes everyone in the industry just stop and stare. So really, how did they pull this off?
Well, it all started with a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. Instead of fighting tooth and nail in the same crowded markets as everyone else, they went where nobody was looking. This right here, this was the absolute foundation of everything that came next.
I love this quote. In their own words, they are an unabashed proponent of the underserved. And let me tell you, this wasn't some feel-good marketing line they slapped on a brochure. It was, and still is, the core of their entire business model. It's baked into their DNA.
So here's how they actually did it. They deliberately went into really challenging markets. Think Latin America and French-speaking Africa. These are places most big companies avoid because, well, they're tough. But by going in early, they got a massive first-mover advantage. And they didn't just sell their products there. They built their own distribution networks from the ground up, creating this protective moat around their business that is now just incredibly hard for anyone else to cross.
Okay, so with that foundation totally secure, they cooked up this brilliant two-pronged strategy to go global. They didn't just stick with what worked, they used it as a launchpad for something way bigger.
And this slide lays out the model perfectly. On one side, you've got their emerging markets engine. This is their cash cow. It just churns out reliable profits from those regions they dominate. Then, they take all that cash and pour it into the other side, a super strategic expansion into the highly regulated and, highly profitable markets in the US and Europe. It's genius, really. One engine just methodically fuels the other.
Now, to make a dual strategy like that actually work, you need to be flexible, and that's where their manufacturing comes in. As you can see, they struck this really smart balance. 60% of their production is done in-house, which gives them total control over quality. But the other 40%, they outsource it, mostly to China. This is what you call an asset-light approach. It means they're nimble, they can move fast, and it helps keep costs way down.
And this kind of smart thinking extends to how they handle risk. I mean, look at this. You can see how their main strategies directly cancel out their biggest threats. Worried about geopolitical problems? That moat we talked about has them covered. Regulatory headaches? They keep all their facilities in an always-ready state of compliance. And what about supply chain nightmares? Well, that balanced 60-40 manufacturing mix is like a built-in shock absorber.
But here's the thing, Caplin Point isn't just coasting on its success. Nope, they are making a massive bet on their future, and they are backing it up with some serious cash.
Over 1,000 crore rupees. Let that number sink in for a second. That's their capital expenditure budget. And here's the craziest part. It is being financed entirely by their own internal cash flow. No debt, no begging investors for money. That is a huge statement of financial strength and just pure confidence in their own plan.
And we're not just talking about a number on a balance sheet. You can see it in action right here. From the blueprints and massive construction of new facilities to the shiny, sophisticated production equipment being installed inside, this is where that money is going. They're literally building the future of their company.
And the strategy behind all this spending is super clear. It's focused on three key things. First, just make more stuff. Augment their capacity. Second, make different stuff. Widen their product range to get into new areas. And third, achieve something called backward integration. All that means is they're starting to make their own key ingredients, which gives them the ultimate control over their supply chain and their costs.
But, the story doesn't end with profit margins and production lines. There's another really important layer to the Caplin Point playbook, and it goes right back to that mission we talked about at the beginning.
This quote, it really says it all, doesn't it? They don't see social responsibility as some chore they have to do. They see it as a natural part of their business, a direct result of their core values. This is what makes their whole serve the underserved thing feel so authentic and not just opportunistic.
And you want to see the proof? Here it is. The brand new Caplin Point Meenakshi Hospital. This isn't just some check they wrote.
They built this state-of-the-art facility to bring affordable, top-notch healthcare directly to the local community, right near their operations.
And when you look inside, you see they've installed advanced tools like this mammogram machine. This is a literal lifeline for women in rural areas, giving them access to early cancer detection that can absolutely be the difference between life and death.
From the patient rooms to the actual treatment areas, the whole point is to provide a level of care you just don't find in these regions. It's a perfect reflection of their business mission, serving the underserved, but this time it's through healthcare.
So, after all that, when you put everything together, what's the big takeaway? What is the secret sauce here? Well, it can really be boiled down to a super clear, repeatable playbook.
It really comes down to these 4 pillars. First, go where nobody else is and totally dominate those underserved markets. Second, take the cash from that engine and use it to smartly break into the world's most valuable markets. Third, reinvest, and reinvest heavily in building the capacity you're going to need for tomorrow. And finally, number 4, weave social responsibility into the very fabric of your business. It's not separate, it's part of the whole.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last really fascinating question to think about. They've got the playbook, and it works. They have a solid foothold in both emerging and regulated markets. The whole machine is built, and it's running smoothly. So, can they do it again? Can they possibly replicate that incredible 13x growth in the decade to come?